Yeah. Full court press. CJ. Yeah, what we talking about? 94 feet, crossover bodies, dropping J's up. Players this elite, your shots on body blocking halftime. Yeah. We break it down, we gon' call your bluff, it's past time. You recognize, boy, press. We got the heat down in Florida with the keys. Guess we the best. Magic, we flash with them fans, listen, won't see the best. Show rise from the airwaves like all stars in them stairways. Local rockin', we not stopping, got hot topics like every day. Them trades hit that deadline, my team chasing the big range, we ball, check that headline. Don't mess it up when you pick teams, the only station giving y'all that info with that real talk. Don't be trying to contest it, go toe to toe and get wheeled off. We shooting from deeper than that report from the bleachers. If you ain't on your game, then we got something to teach you. Tie your laces up, might get shook up out of them sneakers. That triple threat, bless your eardrum straight out of your speakers. Go from that black top to the hardwood, locker room to that press day. Got the scoop on them contracts, new prospects and best plays. NBA defined by the grind in between the lines, full court pressing, finessing, read the signs. What we talking about? 94 feet crossover.
Good morning, basketball world, and this is the Around the Association podcast. This is the weekend edition of the show, and I'm your host, Dane Thompson, checking with you on this wonderful Friday morning. And follow the podcast. Before we get into it, follow the podcast everywhere you're going to find podcasts. All great podcasts, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, as well as Spreaker, Spotify, Podcast Addict, Podomatic, Google Podcasts, and every place you can find wonderful podcasts. At the same time, also follow me on Twitter at Danny, D-A-N-Y, number 3 Thompson on Twitter, as well as AroundTheAssociation.com and Around the Association's Facebook page. So, like I said, this is Friday the 13th, and the NBA last night had a lot going on, and so let's go over the 4-game schedule. I know it's not a big schedule, but all these games last night had some super huge importance around the league. So we'll start out in Philadelphia with the game of the night. Philadelphia and Boston last night. Actually, the game was actually played in Boston, and a battle of two teams in the Eastern Conference is elite. And Philadelphia came into Boston, and Boston had an undefeated home record. Well, that ended. Joel Embiid, season high 38 points and 13 rebounds as the Sixers took care of business 115-109 over the Celtics. And a game that was marred in the beginning by Shaquille O'Neal's and Charles Barkley's criticism of Joel Embiid because, you know, Embiid, when he's on, is arguably the most dominant player in the entire league. And Shaq, Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal, and Charles Barkley called him out on it. You know, and they were saying he's not playing to his potential. And Embiid, the thing with Joel Embiid is that he relishes moments like this. He even said himself he's not playing to his best level. Only averaging 22 points a game this season, Embiid has basically not been the guy that everybody's expecting him to be, especially when he's playing a lot more and he's supposed to be more healthier than he's ever been in his career. Guess what? He came out and was dominating. He scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. He hit 5 free throws in the final 26 seconds after Boston cut the lead with a huge run late in the game. But guess what? It was all about Embiid last night. Besides scoring the basketball, he had the huge block on Daniel Theus with about 15 seconds left in the game. Embiid was the dominant Joel Embiid that we expected to see. He looked like one of arguably the best player in the league last night. It was just more than the scoring. Like I said, he had 13 rebounds. He got to the free throw line. He shot 12-14 from the line last night, knocked out a couple 3-pointers. He blocked some shots. He looked like, and he also had 6 assists as well, too. Embiid was everywhere last night, looking like the MVP candidate everybody thought he would have been when the season started. Sixers also got 23 points and 8 rebounds and 7 assists from Tobias Harris in the game. Ben Simmons struggled, shot 2 of 6 from the floor. In Brett Brown's quest for him to shoot more 3-pointers, didn't shoot one last night, but he did contribute 8 rebounds and 6 assists in the game. The Sixers were without Al Horford, who was out due to an illness. Mike Scott starting his role, scored 15 points in his 28 minutes on the floor. Celtics were led by Kemba Walker, 29 points, 8 assists. Enes Kanter off the bench had 20 points and 9 rebounds, a couple of steals and a couple blocks. The Celtics were coming off a back-to-back, but it does not matter. In the Eastern Conference, there's no such thing as taking nights off, and the Celtics' home winning streak is over thanks to the Sixers. Now there's only 2 undefeated teams left in the NBA. The Sixers and the Miami Heat are the only 2 undefeated teams left at home this season that have not lost a home game. Out in San Antonio, surprisingly, the Cleveland Cavaliers, after looking after blowing a lead last night, a lead on Tuesday night against the Houston Rockets, took care of business, 117-109 over the San Antonio Spurs. Kevin Love looked like the Kevin Love old, 30 points, 17 rebounds. A dominant effort in this game in overtime. Love his huge 3-pointer in the final seconds of regulation and just helped his team steadfast and a lead they actually held on to last night. They stopped an 8-game losing streak. In the process, the Spurs are just in a tailspin. They couldn't find ways to stop Love. Love had 10 points between overtime and the fourth quarter. And it was the third time for the third straight game, the Spurs could not find a way to win the game in overtime. They won the previous 2 games in overtime, but they couldn't keep a 5-point lead last night. Blew a lead late in the game. DeMar DeRozan did lead the Spurs last night in scoring with a team high 21 points, 18 and 10 for LaMarcus Aldridge. But on the Cavs side last night, Colin Sexton 28 points in his effort. They also got 25 points off the bench from Jordan Clarkson. Like I said, the Cavs bounced back after losing a rough game at home on Wednesday night against the Houston Rockets, where they had arguably the lead until James Harden took it away from 20 in the fourth quarter. Out in Mexico City, the Dallas Mavericks got a triple-double from Luka Doncic. I know it's been a while since I had to say the words triple-double of Luka Doncic, but he put on a show for the fans out in Mexico City and was pretty flawless all across the board. His 8th triple-double of the season. Seth Curry gave the Mavericks 30 points off the bench. Mavericks won 122-111 over the Detroit Pistons out in Mexico City. The game was really marred at the very beginning by Andre Drummond being held out of the game due to avocado. Yes, I did say avocado. It was an allergic reaction he had, which caused swelling out his eyes, and he did not play. It was just a big story the whole game. Drummond did play the game. He was supposed to be held out, 23 points, 15 assists. It was just interesting the fact that the man was supposed to be held out due to an avocado due to swelling, but guess what? He did play through. There's a second Mexico City game on Saturday with the Suns and Spurs playing out in Mexico City. This will be a Suns home game. But back to this game itself, it was all about Doncic. Luka was everywhere throughout the floor, did everything he asked him to do last night. His second 40-point triple-double of the season. I mean, what more accolades can you give the man? He does so many different things, whether it be scoring, rebounding, getting into his teammates. And like I say, if you look at the second quarter, he was basically letting Seth Curry get hot. Curry had 18 points in the quarter. Dallas trailed, but was up at halftime and led as many as 24 in the game. Like I said, the Pistons were led by Drummond at 23 points, 11 rebounds. Like I said, his night was more memorable because of the avocado. Blake Griffin struggled speaking Spanish before the game and on the court. He shot 3 of 16 from the floor with 10 points and 5 assists last night. Derrick Rose had 19 points for the Pistons in the game. Last game of the night was out in Denver, a rematch of the Western Conference semifinals, Game 7, which the Blazers did win. There was no return effort on this one. Nuggets used defense in this one, 114-99 over the Blazers last night, even though Hassan Whiteside scored a season-high 33 points and grabbed 11 rebounds. The Denver defense did everything it could to stop one of the best backcourts in the NBA, Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum. Lillard shot 5 of 16 from the floor with his 13 points. He also attributed 11 assists. But like I said, the Nuggets was just a balanced effort all around. 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists from Nikola Jokic. They also got 20 points off the bench from Jeremy Grant. Contribution from everywhere. Will Barton threw a double-double in there. Gary Harris knocked in 15 points as well, too. But once again, this was all about the Blazers' defense that did it in the fourth quarter. It was the Nuggets were struggling to score the basketball, scored 115 points last night. But what they did to the Blazers last night defensively was they held the Blazers to 9 of 30 from the three-point line, forcing guys off the line, making guys miss shots. Carmelo Anthony did make his return back to Denver after all the memorable years he had in Denver. 20 points, 9 rebounds for the Blazers. So, star of the night last night is a pretty simple one. Joel Embiid of the Sixers. Even though it's a 4-game night, Embiid's 38 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, and especially winning in Boston, ending Boston's home winning streak, and the Sixers now 17-7 makes Embiid the easy candidate and the easy winner of the stud of the night. Friday night schedule. So this is a busy weekend in the NBA. And I say a busy weekend because there's a lot of games going on. So we'll go ahead and give you some of the best matchups of the weekend. The game of the night, of course, on Friday night, will be out in Miami. LeBron James and company head down to the South Beach to take on the Miami Heat. Like I said, the Heat are one of 2 teams in the NBA that have an undefeated record at home. The Lakers are the best road team in the NBA, and they have a road winning streak. Somebody's streak is going to end. The Lakers are 12-1 on the road this year. and they play better on the road than they have at home. LeBron James' Eastern Conference tour continues after taking care of business in Orlando on Wednesday. They have this game with Miami tonight. On top of that, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler. There's so many storylines. Like I said, Miami is the best one. Is 11-0 at home this year. Like I said, arguably, one of the best teams in the NBA. Lakers 12-1 on the road. It is LeBron James' trip back to Miami after winning a couple championships in his 5 years in Miami. So many storylines in that game. The game will be on ESPN at 7 p.m., so they do have the early game. The late game on ESPN will be Clippers and Timberwolves. That'll be a 9:30 game out in Minneapolis. Clippers are looking to continue the momentum after beating the Raptors on Wednesday night in Toronto and Kawhi Leonard's return home game. Other notable games on Friday night in the NBA schedule. You're looking at the Philadelphia 76ers trying to continue their home winning streak on a back-to-back against the New Orleans Pelicans. I know the Sixers are 13-0 at home, but sometimes these back-to-backs can be a little bit tricky, especially when you do the road home back-to-back in consecutive nights. Also, the Orlando Magic will take on the Houston Rockets out here in Orlando at 7 p.m. at Amway Center. Friday night, like I said, Saturday, besides the game in Mexico City between the Spurs and between Los Spurs and Los Suns, other matchups that I think they'll be fun to watch on Saturday night would be, how can the Miami Heat bounce back after the Lakers game? Because they will travel to Dallas, take on Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks, 8:30 tip-off on Saturday night. Other game that I'll find interesting will be Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets, like I said, they took care of business over the Blazers and on Thursday night, but the Thunder are a different opponent. The Thunder have been playing some really good basketball of late, and Chris Paul versus Jamal Murray is going to be a great matchup at the point guard position. Also, the NBA TV game on Saturday night will be the Raptors and the Nets out in Toronto. Sunday night's action. Of course, Sunday's normally a light day during the NFL season, but we got some really, really good matchups. The headliner for Sunday's games, of course, will be out in Brooklyn. The Sixers will be playing their third game in 4 nights as they take on the Brooklyn Nets. Spencer Dinwiddie. Can the Sixers defense, which includes Ben Simmons, one of the best leads the NBA in steals, and Josh Richardson, one of the better on-ball defenders, how can they defend Spencer Dinwiddie and the Brooklyn Nets? On top of that, the other game you want to watch out for, of course, is the Lakers. The Lakers trip out to Atlanta. Trae Young. Anytime Trae Young and LeBron James get together, it's going to be fun. Last time the Lakers blew out the Hawks pretty badly at Staples Center, so the Hawks has a little bit of motivation. Also, Hornets and Pacers sound like a fun game. 5 o'clock on League Pass on Sunday, because Devontae Graham is just lighting up the NBA. Second in the NBA in three-pointers made with 102. Don't know if he's going to catch James Harden, but it will be fun for him to actually try to have a chance at it. So, before we check out of here, check me out on Twitter at DannyDA3 Thompson on Twitter, as well as AroundTheAssociation.com and Around the Association's Facebook page. Like I said, we'll be back on Monday to recap the entire weekend of the action in the NBA. So we'll catch you guys on Monday. Peace.
Trackaholic music.
Go for launch.
Yeah. Full court pressure. CJ. Yeah. What we talking about? 94 feet crossover bodies dropping J's.